That's really snappy. I like that a lot. That's really nice. That felt super good.
Hey, it's Mike with Aegis Defense Solutions. Welcome back to the channel. Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe down below. And, write down in the comments, what are you using for your concealed carry every day? What kind of firearm are you using? Are you using anything unique? And with that, we're actually going to cover something pretty unique today. A different firearm from Arsenal Firearms out of Italy and being brought into the United States and distributed by American Precision Firearms. All right, so get in here and take a look at this thing. This is a really unique firearm and a little bit of Italian magic. And it actually has quite a bit of history behind us. So this is the Strike series from Arsenal Firearms, again, being brought into the United States by APF. Now this model here is the Strike 1 Speed, which is one of their competition models. They have a couple different ones. They also have several other models as well, such as the Strike 1, which is just their full size, and then they have a compact version called the Strike 2, and then they have the Mark II, which is a law enforcement military version of this. And it's a kind of a unique firearm, and I'll explain why. All right, now what makes this firearm so unique? Well, it is not a regular striker-fired handgun, and this is a striker fire. But what's operating on the inside is not your regular tilt barrel system. This is going to be the Bergmann-Bayard system, a historical design patented all the way back in 1892. So it's really, really unique. So instead of that tilt barrel, what we have to actually feed into the actual breech, that cartridge, we have a locking block that comes behind it and that's over the barrel that will move out of alignment as the system experiences recoil forces. So it's that locking block that's actually going to keep that cartridge locked into the breech. So really, really unique. In fact, that design actually made its way historically into the Danish military and to the, I believe, the Spanish army as well, and was eventually phased out of their militaries after World War II when we saw those militaries of those army forces, the Danish and the Spaniards, brought in the Browning high power then in that time frame in 1946 to replace the Bergmann-Bayard firearms that were in their inventories. So even though it's got a large historical basis to it, the Bergmann-Bayard system did phase out and was essentially no longer utilized after the introduction of the high power and eventually tilt barrel operation for handguns. Now, APF, along with Arsenal Firearms, has brought this design back for this series of firearms, the Strike series. Now, this is the Strike 1 Speed. The Strike 1 Speed, this is their competition model. Now, they have other models as well, too. They have the Strike 1 regular, which is just their full size. They also have the Strike 2, which is a compact version. And then they have the Mark II, which is going to be their law enforcement military version. So they're kind of trying to cover all bases, creating a series of firearms based off of the Bergmann-Bayard operating system, which is kind of cool. And it's a little bit of Italian magic at that they're putting this into this firearms, because taking this out to the range, I'll tell you right now, it is a joy to shoot. Now, reviewing this competition version, there are several things to definitely note. Now, they have a newer version that is out over this one. This one does not have a slide cutout for mounting an optic system, okay, so there's no plate involved with this, but they do have models that have and incorporate the optics option now. But otherwise, out of the box, what we're getting is a fiber optic front sight and a adjustable rear sight, which is going to be fantastic, again, for competition shooters. Now, they come in different colors also. This one is the dual tone with the stainless steel top. And some of the other big features of this, and which is their big claim to fame on all of their Strike series, is low bore access. You can see how high that backstrap is, that beaver tail, and how high you can get that grip for operating and just manipulating this firearm. Really, really low muzzle whip, low recoil. I mean, we were able to belt out really, really quickly rounds down range accurately and ringing steel from quite a distance away. So it really does function as they're kind of advertising a low recoil option for both, everyday carry all the way up to military law enforcement and for competition shooting. And as you can see, we've already got a flashlight mounted to this one as well. So it does have Picatinny options right on the front of that for the frame. Now, what about the trigger? The trigger in this one is a competition trigger. I don't know if this is necessarily something I would carry for everyday use, but it is a very crisp trigger with only a 5-pound pull. So really low. I mean, you can see that we only got a couple millimeters of take up on the trigger. Very quick break. and a very short reset. And that reset has quite a bit of spring tension behind it, pushing back against your finger, which allowed us to find a very, very quick cadence when we were doing drills out on the range. So really, really fantastic trigger that's inside that frame. Now, if there's one thing that I would definitely note just off the bat is with this dual tone, it does make it pretty slick on the outside, and the serrations, it's kind of hard to see. The serrations on them are not that deeply cut out. And so I kind of theorize that as I'm on range, especially, you know, it's really cold here in Minnesota right now. We were in the 20s this morning, but then that temperature dropped down drastically, and we were hitting single digits of 2 or 3 degrees with a wind chill factor. And my fingers started getting numb. I got a feeling even with gloves on that you're going to have a hard time. The serrations don't give you a lot of grip on that slide, allowing you to manipulate that quickly. You know, I'm not having a problem right now, but again, like I said, it's hard to tell, but the serrations not deeply cut. Another thing to note, you know, the magazines that they're selling with this thing, we definitely have 17 round mags here, but they also of course have California, or rather should I say the People's Republic of California compliant magazines with those 10 round limits on them. But overall, you know, just looking at this feels very solid and well engineered. It's kind of a beefy boy, and it does have a bit of weight to it. But you know, talk is cheap. Let's actually take this thing out to the range and see how it functions. So we're outside at the range now, southern Minnesota. It was a nice balmy 26 degrees this morning, but as you can hear, the winds really picked up and it's quite significantly colder now. But come in here and take a look at this firearm. This is American Precision Firearms Strike 1 Speed, like we mentioned inside, and this is a pretty unique firearm. And it is imported from Italy, like we mentioned before, with the company Arsenal Arms out of Italy. Now, this is their competition model. They have several different versions of that, kind of like we went over inside. And so the big significant things of this competition one are, of course, we get that fiber optic front sight and an adjustable rear sight as well. And so it actually gives you quite a nice sight picture on that. And when you're looking at that sight picture too, you do have a rear indicator for, my finger's already getting numb, rear indicator for if you got that round loaded into the chamber. So what makes this unique? This is that Bergmann Baird operating system on the inside, so it is not the traditional tilt barrel striker fire handgun that you normally see. But let's throw a few rounds for this and actually see how it works. So we just loaded up 10 quick rounds, but let's actually see how that thing functions. So we have that nice sharp trigger on the inside of that, and so I kind of expect that with that 5-pound pull that it has, it's probably going to operate pretty simple, you know, pretty smoothly. Incredible trigger on that. So I mean, like just like we showed inside, I mean, it's very, very crisp, 5-pound pull, very short take up. I mean, we got like 2 millimeters there. Quick break, and the reset, very short reset. This really is a competition handgun at its most. And you know, they do, like we mentioned before, they do have a carry version of this. They have a home defense version, which is kind of their regular 4.5 inch. They have a 4-inch subcompact, which is their everyday carry one. And then they make a military law enforcement one as well with a 5-inch barrel also.
So I have not gotten to shoot this yet, but my first impressions, Cyberpunk. It looks like one of the starting pistols from Cyberpunk. And just that by itself, super cool. Ready? That's really snappy. I like that a lot. That's really nice. That felt super good. I really like that. I had heard from a friend of ours that they didn't like it. So my expectations were a little low, but that is snappy. That's just like straight back in your hand. Super easy to control.
Now, like Jane just mentioned too, he's talking about the aggressiveness of that grip angle. Really, the kind of the star of the show on that is the high beaver tail and that low bore access, which is kind of one of their big talking points and selling points for that firearm. And as I predicted, if I do have a couple qualms, I don't like the stippling on it. It's not very aggressive. It's just kind of just a little bit of overmolded, just little plastic rivets. And because of that stainless steel dual tone on this, the serrations, it really slips out of your fingers easily. You don't get good purchase with the serrations on this one. And especially with a newer one, you know, that recoil spring on the inside is pretty stiff with this competition model. And so pulling that back, not a problem, but where it's cold right now and we're hitting into the negatives and our fingers are starting to get numb, our fingers are really slipping trying to grip that thing. I mean, here, I've even got like these textured, you know, outdoor research gloves, and as I'm pulling that down, you can kind of see it start to slip out of my fingers with that. It is, the serrations, not a lot of purchase, not a fan of those. Now that sight picture, as you can see with that fiber optic, is really, really nice. It's really quick and snappy to get that sight picture.
God, my hands are so numb. Oh my God.
All right, so American Precision Firearms Strike 1 Speed. What do I think of this thing? This is a fun firearm. It's a very interesting competition handgun as well, with that the Bergman Bayard operating system on the inside, where it's utilizing, like we mentioned before, that locking block to actually keep the breech locked versus say a tilt fired operating system on a regular striker fired handgun. So it's fairly unique. This would be a really fun one to have for a collection, certainly for some range time. I don't know about for a competition, but I'm not saying against or for it for a competition, mainly because I don't do competition shooting. We're looking at maybe doing a couple of those this coming year, just to kind of see where our skills are at, and just, you know, it'd be pretty fun to do. But yeah, the Strike 1 Speed, this line of firearms, just because of how unique that is, that history behind the Bergman Bayard operating system, I think this is a cool firearm for a collection, certainly. It's unique. It's definitely got some aesthetic to it that I really, really like, and that low bore axis with that high beaver tail and that really, really crisp trigger at 5 pounds. I think this is a cool firearm for any collector, definitely, or for anybody just wanting just a fun range gun, definitely. But for, like I said, for competition shooting, it might be something worth looking at, though, definitely, if you actually compete. So hey, this is Mike with Aegis Defense Solutions. Thanks for sticking around in this horrible Minnesota weather, and we look forward to maybe seeing some of you at SHOT Show. We're going to SHOT Show this next week, so if you actually see us around, say hey, you know, we'd be glad to talk to you guys, and mark down in the comments below if you would like us to go check anything out specific at SHOT Show. We would love to get your feedback on that and kind of engage with some of those vendors and different companies and everything. So anyways, like and subscribe down below. It was great having you out here. Remember, stay prepared, not scared. God bless and good night, everybody.